May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord. Amen. Thank you so much for inviting me to preach today. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister, so if I make some mistakes, please bear with me. So, what a man Job was. If he were alive today, he would be all over social media. He would be very famous because he was somebody who, he had a fabulous business, very successful. He was very kind to his family and friends and his community. He gave a lot to his community. He loved his family. He was a very good man. And then, it was like the worst of the worst. Most of us have some kind of tragedy or tragedies in our lives. Job's was unbelievable because at first, there were folks that came and killed his cattle and his sheep, kind of like the cattle wars of Wyoming 100 years ago. And he was so distressed at that. But he really had not gotten out of his grief before. There was another group of raiders that came and killed all of his servants, people who he had hired and loved and he had taken care of, and they had taken care of him and all of his family and his work, gone, except for one. And that one came back to break the horrible news. And then there were some people that came and killed all of his children. And there is, I don't know of anything harder for a parent than losing a child. And for him to lose all of his children. He literally pulled and tore at his clothes. He was in deep distress. And he was talking with God throughout all of this. He said, God, why me? Like so many of us, when we're going through the valley of the shadow of death. Why? What's happening? Why me? What is this all about? And through this process, Job was literally living through what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about millennia later, about the stages of grief. So he began, this can't be happening. And then anger. That is one of the messiest parts of grief. He railed out at God, why? And he was so angry and upset. And then he goes through this next stage, which is bargaining. And so much of the book of Job is about Job bargaining with God. Please, can you come? Can you help me? Why is this happening? And then he sinks into very deep depression. He actually says, I wish I'd never been born. So he's becoming suicidal. And he has 3 friends that show up, sort of toward the beginning of his grieving. They had heard through the grapevine that he was just going through hell. So they came and they sat with him. However, after a while, when Job is making his case before God and struggling and arguing, these friends try to be helpful. And I think many of us have had that experience where we're going through a really hard time and we get suggestions. Oh, well, what if you did this? Or could you do this? It's like, so finally, Job said, enough. I want to talk with God. You all just stop it. And so finally, God speaks. And the first thing God talks about is these friends that were not too helpful at all. And God says, you need to go and make an offering. And then God says to Job, please pray for these. And Job, in the midst of all of his suffering, prayed for his friends. And then as the book ends, Job is restored to a new life. And it's different, and he has family again and businesses. and bless you. And he gives so much back to his community. When I was at Princeton Seminary many years ago, but I was still considered an older student because I was 34. We had this amazing Old Testament professor who'd been there already for a long time, Dr. Bernard Anderson, and he wrote the unfolding story of the Bible. And the last class of the semester, he always talked about Job. He preached about Job. And he had a reputation, because students always jumped up and clapped at the very end. And so we first-year students like, oh. But what Dr. Anderson was able to do was to take us through Job's suffering and teach us. We learned such important theological concepts about the fact that suffering happens to so many of us, almost all or all of us, no matter what our station in life, where we live, it happens. And Dr. Anderson also helped us see that Job realized through his suffering that this happens to all of us, and that throughout it all, he stayed connected with God. And Dr. Anderson also taught us that Job brought everything he was, all of his messiness, to God. It wasn't all cleaned up. I think so many times we kind of want to clean up a little bit. We do certainly for friends and colleagues, and sometimes we try with God. And Dr. Anderson's message was, Job brought all of himself, and all of his messiness to God. And what did we do at the end? We jumped up too, because we realized that this was a story about transformation, about how God holds us no matter what. And it was an amazing story. And of course, if you have a chance to look at the unfolding story of the Bible, and I think Dr. Anderson's long gone because he was probably close to my age when I was in seminary 40 years ago. But I still carry that with me, and I can still see it standing there. We have so much suffering in our world today. We've got wars, famine, we've got an increase in homelessness. We have people who are going without food all over the world, and unfortunately we're seeing a great increase in poverty and lack of food and starvation in the United States, in Africa, and all of our continents. And we also have times where we have disasters. Natural disasters, disasters in our family and community. And it's so hard to walk through that. One of the people that taught me so much was Rabbi Kushner. He had this baby who was diagnosed with progeria, which is rapid aging. So before he was a teenager, he was an old man and he died. And like Job, Rabbi Kushner called out. He stayed in touch with God. He was so upset. God, how could this be? He watched his child age before his eyes and die before he really had much of a lease on life. And he struggled and struggled and struggled until he came to his own resolution. He came to his own resolution in terms of the stages of grief. And he wrote when good things happen to bad people. And so he was able to not only have resolution in his own suffering, but he shared something that's been helpful to so many of us. So what can we do? I think that the chapter of Thessalonians gives us some inkling, because the message is we, this congregation, we're God's people, and God has chosen us, God has sanctified us, God is reaching out and supporting us. And so when really horrible things happen, we can pray, and we can ask others to pray with us and for us. The power of prayer is so amazing. We can also reach out to others, and we can reach out to people that we know are having a hard time. And one of the things about this congregation, it's so connectional. There's so much love here, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's in all of the people that help lead service, all of the ministries, internal and external. And when we are able to touch each other and support each other, it doesn't remove the suffering. What it does is it helps us walk through that suffering and know that we are not alone. Gracias a Dios.
Good morning. I'm Andrea Spessard, Junior Warden on the Vestry and Chair of the Stewardship Campaign. This is the time of year when we reflect on the current year and we prepare for the next. Our Stewardship Campaign provides an opportunity for us to reflect on the many ways that we are connected to each other. Our theme this year, Tell Out My Soul, focuses on our stories and the ways we are called to share our words, our actions, our love, our compassion, and our joy with the world. In 2025 at St. Paul's, some of our experiences we have shared have been extremely sad, especially with the loss of several long-term, very involved, and well-loved members of our parish, including Harold, Father Jeff, Bruce, Sonny, other family and friends, and the tragic loss of our beloved Father George. It has been an emotionally challenging year for us. As we have mourned those losses together, we have shared stories and happy memories of those whom we have lost. As we share stories, express our feelings, grieve and heal together, and tell out our souls, we become closer and better connected as friends, as chosen family, and as the community of St. Paul's. These bonds we form are important to us, to our relationships with each other, with our community, and with God. Each of us has a story to tell, how we found this community of St. Paul's, why we actively participate, and the blessings it has brought into our lives. Each of us has personal goals, dreams, and great ideas, and each of us has struggles and moments of difficulty. At St. Paul's, we can bring our true and whole selves to this special place to share our story and to receive the support, encouragement, acceptance, and praise that we need. We will share stories in the coming weeks during our stewardship campaign, and we encourage you to share your story with others, reflecting on the blessings and gifts you have received from God and how you can share them at St. Paul's to serve our parish and the greater community of San Miguel through our 19 internal ministries and our various external ministries. You may be interested in serving as an usher, or on the altar guild or the flower guild. You may want to support the 12 Apostles English classes by being present to help the participants have someone with whom to practice their English. You may want to help coach or play pickleball with the girls at the Santa Julia Orphanage. You may want to sponsor a student member of our youth orchestra. The best way in which we can honor the memory and legacy of Father George is to continue the work he did so well here for 7 years, including growing our ministries both within our church and throughout San Miguel, increasing the number of our English and Spanish-speaking members of our parish, and sharing our gifts and blessings from God. We have been so very blessed to have Father Frank, our retired assisting priest, to graciously lead us through this challenging time, preparing for and officiating at our weekly Sunday English services and at confirmation and at 3 funerals in the past 2 months, preparing the weekly epistle newsletter, and conducting an 8-week Bible study, ensuring that we continue with as much normalcy as possible. Father Frank, we are very grateful to you and your dedication to St. Paul's. and Father Frank, Padre Miguel, and our other 3 retired clergy, Madre Ann, Father Peter, and Pastor Keith. They have all offered us pastoral care and counseling during our time of grief and have been here to support us. All are assisting with the weekly services and parish support this month of November, since the arrival of our interim rector, Father Greg Frost, has been delayed due to his recent fall, resulting in a broken collarbone. So thank you to Padre Miguel and all of our retired clergy, the vestry, and all the members of this parish, all of whom have stepped up and have assumed new roles and responsibilities in recent months. You are sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to welcoming Father Greg and his wife Janice very soon. As our search committee works through the process of seeking and attracting the best possible candidates and calling a new permanent rector to St. Paul's, it is very important that we remain a strong, united parish family with a healthy financial position. Each year we get closer to bringing in enough money in pledges to cover our approximately $300,000 operating budget. It is important that we volunteer our time and our talents through our many internal and external ministries, and we need financial resources to cover our operating expenses and to continue to serve our parish and the community of San Miguel in ways that would make Father George proud and will honor his 42 years of ministry and his legacy of service. Inside your service bulletin this morning is a letter and an attached pledge card. Please take these home and reflect this week on how you can best serve our parish and the greater community of San Miguel through your time, your talents, and financial gifts. All are important and will help us remain a strong and growing parish. We ask that you please fill in both sides of the pledge card and bring it back next Sunday. We will bring them to the altar and present them to the glory of God in gratitude for our many blessings and gifts. Whether you live in San Miguel full-time, part-time, or just visit occasionally, we need and sincerely appreciate your generous support. Your financial pledge will allow us to continue to grow, cover our monthly expenses, and support our ministries for St. Paul's and the San Miguel communities. Online pledge cards will be available on our website, and the printed pledge cards may also be scanned and emailed back to our office administrator, Claudia. The various ways in which pledges and payments may be made are included in the letter. Thank you for your generosity of your time, your talents, and your financial gifts. Every gift matters, and each will be gratefully received, brought to the altar next Sunday, and blessed before God and our St. Paul's community. Tell out my soul. Let us share our stories. Let us continue to share our love and compassion with the world, and let us celebrate the greatness of the Lord. Thank you.